Hi guys, welcome back. Here's another example to help you with the FRQs. I'm going to walk you right through it. Again, a bank balance sheet. Why is this important to know? Your AP test, it's not going to have you actually graph as is. So this could be potentially a fair game. You'll notice there's no graphs involved. So again, a bank balance sheet, keyword there, balance. Let's double check to make sure it's balanced. Liabilities must equal assets. There's 20,000 in liabilities. That's good. Owner's equity, you really don't need to know. Just note that it counts as a liability. Assets, 2,000 required reserves, 0 in excess. Loans, 8,000. That makes 10,000. 7,000 plus 3,000. Great. Excellent. So it's bank balance. Assets equals liabilities. Let's move forward. Based on Sewell's bank balance, calculate the reserve requirement. My guess is that's going to be like A, always are going to be what is the reserve requirement. And again, in order to know that, you have to know the formula. Required reserves over demand deposits. It's not required reserves over the total liabilities. It's not total reserves, which equals required and excess. It's required reserves over demand deposits. So 2 over the 2K from required reserves right here over the 10K. That's 10K, obviously. 10K equals 0.2. And again, what this means is that banks have to hold on to 20% of every dollar that gets deposited. They're required to hold on to in case people want to withdraw. So 20% is our required reserve ratio. That's the answer to A. You can either do 0.2 or 20%. I personally like 20%. I showed you 0.2. I don't know why. Suppose that we're on B. Suppose that the Federal Reserve purchased 5,000. They buy 5,000 of bonds from Sewell's bank. What will be the change in the dollar value of the following immediately after the purchase? Well, does Sewell's bank have 5,000 worth in bonds that they can sell to the central bank? Yes, they do. So the Federal Reserve is going to buy 5,000 bonds. So the 7,000 becomes now 5,000. That's five. That becomes, forget that, 2,000 in bonds. So now they only have 2,000 in bonds, right? Because 5 of that 7,000 is going to the central banks. Well, do we have a bank balance sheet? No, we don't, right? We only have 15,000 in assets. Well, what happens to that other 5,000? Well, the central bank didn't deposit it, so it doesn't affect demand deposits. That excess reserves is going to get that $5,000. What it just is, it changed it from bonds were an asset of $5,000 to now excess reserves. Sewell's bank has more cash because the Federal Reserve is giving them the cash in exchange for the bonds that Sewell Bank has. So the bonds now only becomes 2,000. The excess reserve becomes 5,000. So what will be the change in dollar value of the purchase? Well, I is 5K. Thank you to my assistant. So BI is 5,000. I'll write that if you guys want. BI is 5K. Well, what is the total change in demand deposits as a result of that purchase of bonds? Well, in BI, did demand deposits? Did anybody deposit any money? Think of as an individual. No, demand deposits doesn't change. So the answer to that for C is NC, as in no change. And they're not asking you to explain. No change is perfect, or 0. C, calculate the maximum amount of change that the money supply can result. Okay, so C, I got to know the money supply formula. The money supply formula, total change in money supply, equals the multiplier. Well, the multiplier is 1 over the reserve ratio. The reserve ratio is 0.2. So 1 over 0.2 times the amount change in excess reserves. So 1 over 0.2, how many 20-cent pieces in a dollar? 5. 5 times 5. The total change in the money supply is going to change $25 or $25,000. That's the answer to C. D, explain when the Federal Reserve purchases bonds, what will happen to the price of bonds in the open market? Well, we should note that the price of bonds is inversely related to nominal interest rates. So, in order to know D, I need to know the money market graph. So, I'm just quickly drawing a money market graph. Again, here's my MD, my money demand curve. Here is my money supply. Notice it's vertical. Okay. Remember that acronym I want you to know. Buy big, right? The Federal Reserve is buying bonds, in which case the money supply increases. And I'll try to get a different color to show that if I can. I guess maybe I can. Yeah. The money supply increases. So what happens to IRs? Well, interest rates of money supply increases from left to right, from red to this blue. Well, the interest rates decrease. If interest rates decrease, remember bond prices and interest rates are inversely related. So if interest rates decrease, bond prices will increase. Oh, I've got to explain. Well, I would explain the steps that increasing the money supply causes interest rates to decrease. Bond prices and interest rates are inversely related. Boom, there you go. That's the answer to D. And that's going to get you 2 points, right? If you tell me that it's bond prices increase and tell me the steps as to why. E, suppose that instead of the purchase of bonds, the Federal Reserve, an initial deposit of $5,000 in cash into the checking account M1, what is the immediate effect of the cash deposit in the M1? Well, when I had $5,000 as cash, does that count as M1? Yes, it does. When I take that $5,000 from cash and I give it to the bank and they put it in demand deposits, is that still M1? Yes, it is. So there's no change in M1 money supply, whether it's cash or whether I convert it into demand deposits. It's still the 5,000. It's still considered M1, the most liquid form of money. Hopefully this helps. Love you guys. I'll keep trying to post these. Adios. Best of luck to you.